Welcome back to the workshop. Today I'm talking about the pros and cons of the Smart Vise made by Sjobergs. This is sort of a mobile workstation. This has actually been out on the market for several years. I bought this back in 2014 when it sort of just came out. And I bought mine off the internet, but I believe now you can buy them at big box stores. And maybe even Amazon, who knows. But I don't know what the cost of this thing is because, like I said, I bought this in 2014, so whatever I paid then would be irrelevant today. It's a very nice work surface. I used it for several years. I have the original box. This is not an unboxing, but I do have the original box because it's the best way to keep it. It's just a great face vise. If you have a work surface that doesn't have a face vise, or just a table or whatever you're using. And there's a previous video that I have on small workshop spaces. You can check that out. That shows some of the basic use of this and where I used it originally. But for today, we're just going to look at what this can do, how it can help you in your woodworking. And as I said, it's from Sjobergs, which is a world-class maker of workbenches for woodworking. And so they have great products other places. This is not an endorsement. This is my honest opinion of this particular item. And so we'll look at that next. Open it up. I have these spacer blocks because when it was used at the other location, I needed this for holding clamps. So bring it out of the box. The box goes away. So, if you've not seen one of these before, what you've got is you got your face vise here, and then you got the rest of the surface behind that. On the flip side, it's reinforced with some piece of plywood screwed on. These two dowels are actually what hold the piece up against your work surface. So you're pushing into it. Now, the video never the box and the instructions that come with it never say anything about clamping this down. They just put it on your table and start working with it. But it's kind of heavy in this one direction. It wants to just go bye-bye. So what I do is I use clamps, a couple clamps, to keep this held up just for my own benefit, so I know it's not going anywhere. And of course I have to come around to do this. So put one on one side and one on the other. And so that works great in that way. Get down in my bench. You might remember this box from the Small Woodworking bench. Now these are bench dogs that I bought separately. But these actually came with this thing. And they're all kept together now because it's more convenient that way. And I believe these also came with it. Now remember, again, this was in 2014, so I don't know what it comes with today. But, so they give you some bench dogs, fit right in the holes. And they also come with, now this doesn't come with it, you could buy it separately, but there is actually some tape you can buy that will protect the edges of your face vise. And so that's helpful if you're going to be doing a lot of work. The surfaces are already smooth and nicely done, but if you really envision a lot of work, you can get some of the tape. Or use your own tape if that works too. Let's look at some of these boards that we were using for the pros and cons videos. And now I would use something like this for smaller work. Things like, working on a box for, say, a puzzle box or something like that. I wouldn't be dragging our 2x4 out and expecting to use it on this, although I could probably handle it, but that's not really what I'm envisioning using it for. Now for something like this, it's not exactly the kind of surface that I've been envisioning using if I want to do some planing or something like that. But it might work that way. I don't know. I've never actually tried it for this. When I've used it for smaller pieces. Okay. Because this is clamped to this, it's actually doable. Look at that. This is outperforming the Allied workbench, and in some ways also the Worx Pegasus. So, depending on what you're doing, this is actually very useful. Let's take it off. Now, if you're going to do something like this, I'm sure it works just as well. I think this is against the grain. So we're going to do it this way. Yep. And again, works very well, holds it in place. You're getting what you want. You're doing the work that you want to do. And so this works. Now, if you want to do a little bit of cross-cut sawing, no problems. Going to do slots or dovetails or whatever. Works very well. And because, again, it's secured to this, which is secured to the bench, the only thing wiggling around is the bench itself. We've got our piece of 1/4-inch poplar. Again, we're going to have to move this out. And my dog came off. Put that back in there, although it is useful here. Okay. A little bit more. All right. Bring it back in. It's in there. Now, I don't know what you want to do with it. If you want to do some sawing, again, you're just moving the bench around. That's the if you're doing this on a solid table or something, then you're not even going to have that issue. But whatever you want to do here, it's solid. It's in there. So that's a good thing. I'm going to take it this way. Same thing as we did on the other one. It's on there. Of course, you have a lot of exposed, so this could, if you're going to do something over here, you just have to be careful that it could snap. But that's the board, not the work surface. So that works on this one. Now, the plywood that I had before is obviously like 2 times the size of the work surface. So this is not really ideal for use on that. Again, you're going to need something else to, and again, sawhorses may be all you need for dealing with that thing. This is the Parthenon, which is one of the puzzle cabinets that I make. It's not finished. Nowhere near finished, but you get the idea of the size. It's sort of the front. There'll be more to this, but this is a good surface for working on something like this. And then, depending on what I was doing, of course, but it holds it in. It's not going anywhere. If I needed to, there will come a point when I'm finished with the inside that I will be then attaching the roof. Give you an idea. These are the roof sections for the Parthenon. So if you're familiar with the Parthenon, it kind of has a sort of like this roof. It's very low profile. It's not a huge roof. On this sort of thing, I will have strips going across that will become the slope, and then I'll just be attaching these to that. And so using this would be probably a very good way of doing that. when I get to that point, which could be in a couple months from now. Or by the time this video is shown, it could have happened. So you never know. But anyway, this is a good, using this device, this clamp is a good way of holding something of this size for the projects that I do. Some additional items to note on this piece. I don't have a lot of cons to this. I've used this for years. Now that I have the Small Workbench, which has a face vise with a pipe clamp as its main clamping part, I don't actually use this much at all. It usually remains in its box on the floor. But occasionally I do take it out if maybe I want two vices, one here and have this one a little further down. I might do that. But as far as cons on this piece, I just don't have any. I will note that the finish on the top surface has come off in a few places. There's some places where a little nick has come off, or there's a few nicks around some of the dog holes. I mean, that's just general use. These little dogs work very well. You probably can get some absorbent material, rubber or something, if you want to put on there to give a little extra connection or soften the impact. The screw works very well. The handle works very well. I have no complaints about this thing. So if you're thinking about getting one, if you've seen some of the material I've shown here, of course there's other uses for it. People use it to clamp a model in to paint it, or they'll clamp in something else for doing carving or shaping, or there's endless ways that you could use this thing. And so hopefully this would be helpful to you if you're thinking about an extra surface. If you're just starting out in woodworking and all you have is a table, you can get this thing and now you have a face vise. Now you have an excellent clamp that'll hold things in place, help you with your woodworking, get started, and you can build your workbench and go on from there. And that's my pros and cons of the Sjobergs Smart Vise.